The Shulchan Aruch mentions a problem that remains unsettled in our time. Siman Samach Vav 66, Seif, paragraph Zayin. The Shulchan Aruch says, the Mechaber, Eino Omer Amen Achar Gah'al Yisrael. That the last bracha that we say before we begin Shemona Esrei is the bracha Gah'al Yisrael. Baruch Atah Hashem, Gah'al Yisrael. That's what the Shaliach Tzibur says out loud. And then the question is, do we say Amen when he says that bracha? The Shulchan Aruch says, no. Do not say Amen. Eino Amen. Mishum dehave hefsek. Hefsek means that there's a discontinuity in the tefillah, an unnecessary and uncalled for discontinuity. And then the Ramah adds, Yesh omrim donim amen. So it's not clear whether you should say amen when the Shliach Tzibur says Gah'al Yisrael, or you should refrain from saying amen, which is why sometimes the Shliach Tzibur says that bracha silently to himself in order to take us out of our misery of not knowing whether we should say amen or we should refrain from saying amen. After the bracha of Gah'al Yisrael, there is in the Sidurim, printed usually in small print, one or two psukim. The pasuk HaShem Sefatie tiftach ufi yagid tilatecha, right? And then the pasuk Yishem Hashem ekra havagodo leilo genu. The first pasuk is always said with Shemona Esrei, and the second pasuk is said in Mincha. So here the Mishnah Berurah says, he says that when the Ramah said that you should answer Amen to Gah'al Yisrael, and that's the minhag, so the Mishnah Berurah adds, that's dafka im lo itchil adayin pasuk shel HaShem Sefatie tiftach. That only if you haven't started to say quietly on your own the pasuk HaShem Sefatie tiftach, dimisham va'elach havei kitfilah. That even though the pasuk is printed in small letters, there is no doubt, the Mishnah Berurah says, that it's part of Shemona Esrei. And since you've already begun Shemona Esrei, you should not say Amen to the bracha. And then he goes on to say that because Jews want to be yotzei, want to kind of fulfill the requirement in every possible direction, there are those who wait after they finish the bracha of Gah'al Yisrael until the Shaliach Tzibur repeats the bracha, then they say Amen, and then they say HaShem Sefatie tiftach ufi yagid gitalatech. This seems to indicate that even though Shemona Esrei is defined as that tefillah which begins with three brachot that are constant, the bracha Magen Avraham, and then the bracha Mechayei HaMeitim, and then the bracha Hakel HaKadosh, nevertheless, the Shemona Esrei actually starts before the first bracha with the additional pasuk that appears in the Sidur, HaShem Sefatie tiftach ufi yagid tilatecha. It's probably true that if you forget to say that pasuk, and you've begun to say Shemona Esrei Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu v'Elokei Avoteinu, etc., and you remember that you forgot to say HaShem Sefatie tiftach, you should not return and repeat the Shemona Esrei in order to say that pasuk. So that on the one hand, we've determined that HaShem Sefatie tiftach is part of Shemona Esrei. On the other hand, it's sufficient to say Shemona Esrei without that pasuk, and you don't go back and say it again if you've mistakenly forgot it the first time around.